Well, folks, the wall of worry is strong right now, and people are wondering what the heck to do now. Market looks like it's ready to drop big. We're going to talk about all this in depth. The wall of worry, what is the wall of worry built out of right now? It is built out of inflation, the Fed, how many rate hikes they're going to do this year, companies not giving forecasts or weak forecasts, valuations on big tech stocks, GDP growth, the retail wreck that has happened over the past year, and at the center of this whole wall of worry, the biggest thing holding it up is this guy right here, Russia, in this Ukraine situation. This is the biggest thing out there right now, and it's actually dwarfing all the other big things that are built out of the wall of worry right now. And how the heck do you even start to get this brick wall destroyed, okay? And the bad news is this is seen as an act of a little more of aggression, I guess you can say. Futures are dropping big on the back of this. Putin orders forces into eastern Ukraine regions after independence decree. Now, when you first see that, it sounds really bad and really scary. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, well, here's the big war. It's about to happen. But I think it's important to dig a little deeper and not just read a headline and be like, oh my gosh, this is what they warned us about. This is game over. Oh my gosh, okay? So first off, does Putin have puts on this market or what's going on here, all right? Putin orders forces into rebel eastern Ukrainian regions after recognizing their independence. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered troops into two breakaway regions of eastern Ukraine after announcing Monday evening that he would recognize their independence. During his televised remarks, Putin aired historical grievances against NATO and the U.S. and accused Western governments of hostile activities that threaten Russian security. The Kremlin said that Putin discussed his decision with the French president and German chancellor as well. The leaders expressed their disappointment, but indicated their readiness to continue diplomatic talks. All right? And of course, you know who has to always get involved in all these things. You know it's the United States, okay? Now, all of a sudden, this is coming out. U.S. official says Biden-Putin summit is unlikely now. And this is just after yesterday. It was looking like it was a real possibility. And it seems like in the story, it's like 1 minute you seem like you might get good news, and then it's like, oh, no, now it's bad news, okay? Now, I think this is really important to understand here. Like, how big is this? Are we talking about in terms of this area, right? I think that's really, really important because there was a thought that Russia wanted to just take over Ukraine essentially, and they were going to go do like a full-scale war. But like, what are we talking here? Because I would say 99% of people aren't even familiar with this region. What's been going on there? How big are we talking here? Well, here's the truth. Okay, so look at this here. Now, Eastern Ukraine separatists, pro-Russian separatists in Donetsk and Luhansk, okay? I'm not the best at pronouncing words. We all know that, okay? Regions declared independence from Ukraine in 2014. Fighting between Russian-backed rebels and Ukrainian military in its area has killed more than 10,000 people since April of 2014. I bet you most people don't know that. I was one guy. I didn't even know it was that big of a number. So nonetheless, okay? This is a very war-ridden area, and it has been for some time, essentially. And this is this little teeny area here where there's been all this conflict. And that is, just to reference how small this area is as a part of Ukraine, that is it there, okay? This is not like, at least as of now, who knows, it could get worse, okay? But it's not like, oh, Russia's going in to take over Ukraine and it's going to be a full-scale war. That's not like this at all, okay? And the fact is, this isn't like this is some area where everything's been peaceful and everything's been good, okay? I mean, we're talking about 10,000 people have been killed in this region very recently. And this is a situation that matters to Russia. This is not like a United States situation where we're like, go across the world and start wars because, we think we can help out or something like that. This is a matter that directly affects Russia in the end in this situation. And so I think that's very important to keep in mind with this all going on. Now, obviously, the market's taking this as bad news, right? Dow futures dropped 500 points as tensions between Russia and Ukraine brew. This is being seen as bad news. Well, my first thought here is, okay, is this really bad news? Is this really bad news? It was thought that Russia wanted to do a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russia has said that's not what they're planning on doing, and even in this situation, that's still not what they're doing. because they're going to, try to get into this region and they're sending peacekeepers. This is a war-ridden area that involves a ton of Russian-backed rebels, essentially, in this situation. And this is not like they're taking over all the main capitals of Ukraine or something like that. And so, the news could be far worse than this, right? And if Putin wanted to make a move, I think he honestly would have already made a move in terms of like actually going, to war with Ukraine, which once again, I do not think he wants to do. I don't think that's a very realistic thing in terms of a full scale war. And I've said that many times and I'll continue to say that everything's possible. And maybe they do end up in a full scale war with Ukraine. I don't see that being super realistic in this scenario. I really, really don't. I don't think Russia wins in that situation. I don't think Putin wins in that situation, okay? I think he wants to take care of this situation and be the center of attention right now, and I think they like that, and I think they like energy prices going up and all those things. But believe me, Russia's being hurt by this whole thing in a major, major way from all these sanctions and everything, things like that. Remember, this could be a potential serious conflict here, serious war with a lot of bloodshed if things really broke out here. I don't think Russia wants to do that. I'll just be completely honest. I don't think they're looking to start a full-scale war. And I don't think Ukraine wants that either, okay? But let's be very clear. If Russia did decide we're going to go in there and try to, take over all of Ukraine, there's going to be a full-scale war. And I don't think it's a super realistic thing, to be quite honest, because of how nasty that would end up getting between the two countries. So, all things are possible. It just doesn't seem very, very realistic. So of the news that could come out in this situation, is it the ultimate perfect? The perfect news would be Russia just completely backs off and doesn't do anything. I think we all know that's not going to happen, right? But of the news that could have happened today, it reminds me, because there's still talk like, oh, maybe Russia still wants to take over all of Ukraine, okay? Why haven't they done it yet? It's kind of like, you ever seen, in school, there's like two kids that are like getting ready to fight, and they're like, and then they keep like, do something. And then like neither one's doing anything. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? Are you guys going to fight or not? And in this situation, I think if Putin really wanted to go in, he already made his move, right? So that's some food for thought. Now, Nasdaq futures are tanking on the back of this, okay? No one's going to buy iPhones anymore. No one's going to go on Google. No one's going to watch YouTube videos anymore. No one's going to go on use Microsoft products. No one's going to order Amazon packages. Nasdaq futures are obviously tanking on the back of this. Now, whenever there's instability, that's what happens to the market. And right now in this situation, it's instability. The market hates instability in the market. And all the futures are going down on the back of this. We'll see what ends up happening tomorrow. But, it's not the ideal situation when it comes to this, right? And if we go ahead and look at European futures, down, all the markets are down, but they're not down as nearly as much. Believe me, this negatively affects Europe way more than US, okay? I would say this situation almost doesn't affect the U.S. at all, or very, very little. Versus in the EU, it could be much more substantial, especially with energy prices and the amount of energy, fossil fuels that essentially Europe gets from Russia. It could get much worse for them, right? And even their futures are not that horrible, like a lot of 2%, 1% type moves. Now, the one standout here in this situation is the Moscow Interbank Currency Exchange, okay? The Russia index, 10.5% down. It's a new 52-week low. I mean, CNBC doesn't even update their charts right now, but it's somewhere like down there right now, okay? Like, let's put it like right here. Yeah, that's rough, okay? And so the Russian stock market is not going to be a pretty place right now. This is the biggest drop from my understanding here. Biggest drop since '08, if I recall. Biggest drop since '08 for the Russian index here. So nonetheless, this is a really, really bad situation for obviously the stock market, but mainly for certain indexes more than others, okay? And like I said, of the news we could have got, it could be way worse than this, right? Now, look at this. I thought this was interesting, okay? Former Obama foreign policy appointee questions White House response because essentially, Biden will soon issue an executive order that will prohibit new investment, trade, financing of U.S. persons to from so-called DNR, LNR regions of Ukraine. And so this was interesting, and this already came out, by the way, but a lot of folks are looking at that and they're like, that's it. Like that's all that's going to happen in this situation. And so I think that shows a little bit of how much the U.S. really doesn't want to get too involved in this situation. Because like what else can the U.S. do in this situation? Like how much, Russia and the U.S. already have a very limited relationship economically as it is. It's not nearly like it is, between China and the U.S. or something like that, right? Or even a lot of other regions, Europe and the U.S. or any region for that matter. I mean, Russia and the U.S. are economically aren't nearly tied to as much as other regions out there in other countries, right? And so, in my opinion, it's like, what else do you want the president to do? Now, the risk is, if this is being seen like this, I don't know if Biden doesn't want to be seen as weak, and then he feels like he has to do something else. But the question is, like, what else, are folks looking for him to do in that situation, right? But nonetheless, this is causing kind of a conflict in between here, right? Now, we got this back to the massive wall of worry here with all these sorts of things, right? So I think it's important in times like this to remember, right? I've been in the stock market for about 14 years. I've been alive for 32 years, right? And if we just think about, like, not the time I've been in the stock market, but let's actually think about the entire time of my life, 32 years, right? And if we think about that time, what have we seen? We've seen multiple wars, and some involving the U.S., several involving the United States, right? We've seen terrorist attacks. We've seen stock market crashes. We've seen bubbles. We've seen corrections. We've seen so much drama over time, right? So much drama. Remember the North Korea situation? We've seen trade wars. We've seen tariffs. We've seen the Capitol even get taken over by our own people, the United States. We've seen riots. We've seen a once in 100-year pandemic. This is all just in my 32 years of life, right? And much of that has actually happened since I've been in the stock market since 08, 09, right? And so you've seen so much happen over this time. And here we are at another moment where we got this massive, massive wall of worry in front of us, right? Where it's just there, and it's like, how do we get through this wall or over this wall? Because this wall is so dang high right now, and so looks like it's built so strong. And it's like, how do we get over this thing? Like, it's just so crazy, right? And we need to get to the other side in this situation. And so the way I kind of think about a moment like this, right, is you can't take this wall down all at once. We don't have a bulldozer. So essentially what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to take this wall down brick by brick, okay? And I think the first brick to fall will ultimately be, hopefully, this Russia situation. Unless Russia and Ukraine go to a full-scale war, which is a whole different situation, then that's going to still be a mess for a while. But in my opinion, this will be the first brick to fall. I do not think a full-scale war will happen there. And as long as that doesn't happen, that brick will eventually be removed. I think it's going to drag on for a little bit more. I told you guys, I think this is going to continue to just be a drag-on situation, a drama show. I think Russia loves being the center of attention, and it is right now. And I think it's just going to continue that, right? But eventually that brick goes away. Boom, we're going to destroy that brick, okay? The Fed, that big meeting is, March 16th. Get ready for that, okay? I think they're going to raise by 0.5%. I think we're going to be in a situation where that's going to be expected, and I think we're going to remove that Fed brick because I think it's going to be what everybody's expecting, or maybe even a little better. And so that brick gets removed. We're 2 months away, in my opinion, from the inflation brick getting removed. The reason inflation has been so worrisome is not just because it's going up, but the rapid clip it's been going up as a percentage. We got 2 more months of tough comps for inflation, and then things begin to get a lot easier when it comes to inflation for us. And so in about a month and a half to 2 months from now, we'll be able to remove that brick, that insane worries about inflation, because as long as it's going up faster and faster and accelerating the growth every month, it freaks a lot of people out. I think we're about 1 to 2 months away from that flipping, and essentially the rate of increase is not nearly as dramatic. Inflation will still be going up, just to be clear about that. It just won't be happening at as rapid of a clip starting in a couple months from now, okay? Company forecasts. I think companies are going to have a lot more clarity come next quarter and the following quarter after that when it comes to forecasting numbers. So then we'll remove that brick. Valuations are coming down massively now. Small caps and mid caps are already trading the cheapest they pretty much have in a decade. Large caps are coming down majorly right now. And if this market continues to tank like we have here, guess what? Next thing you know, and I'm already seeing it, there's a ton of mega caps and large caps that are deals right now. You look at Meta, you look at PayPal, you look at Amazon, like you can go across a ton of stocks. Heck, even Netflix. I never thought I'd say a day, see a day Netflix actually is looking pretty darn appetizing, but Netflix is, right? And so there's a whole ton of mega cap stocks and large caps that actually look like they're interesting valuations now. And if this market continues to drop, those valuations just get more and more intriguing. So that brick gets removed, right? GDP growth, based upon what I'm seeing in the underlying economy, and when I go to the real world, people are spending money. I've never seen, the malls as busy as I've seen them. I've never seen an overall economy as strong as what I'm seeing right now out there. So I think that's going to go away in a massive way. And the retail wreck, this is already kind of getting destroyed already. This is actually the first brick that's falling here. The retail wreck, that's something that, retail investors already left this market en masse. I think, if anything, there's actually upside there from the retail wreck. I think anybody that's in this market still from the retail side, which the retail side is like people like me, people like you guys watching this video, right, that have anywhere between, a few $1,000s in the market and, $10 million in the market, right? I think that bunch, if anything, there's a chance that folks could get back in this market, seeing all this volatility, seeing all these stocks down huge and saying, you know what? Man, that stock's down 80%, that stock's down 90%, that stock's down 70%, that stock's down 60%. And I think, if anything, there could be actually a strong possibility that retail starts to get back in this. And remember, if inflation continues to be high, which inflation will continue to be high, right? I just think the rate is gonna slow massively starting a couple months from now. But regardless, as inflation ticks up, guess what that ends up meaning, right? Well, if you're holding cash, your money's being devalued. So you got to put that money somewhere. You're not putting in real estate right now because there's the supply situation's insane, right? Like there's no supply out there. So you can't really put in real estate. Crypto is only for certain folks that want to take that risk. So all of a sudden you start looking at the stock market and you're like, man, a ton of these stocks are down. Oh, there's a lot of fear in the market. There's this massive wall of fear in the market, right? And if there's one thing you should know about the market, it is buy stocks when there's a massive wall of fear right in front of you. If everything looks great and the sun is shining and all stocks are at 52-week highs, be very, very careful. But when you have this wall of worry right in front of your face with a million things that everything's negative right now, right? We know the only thing to do in those situations is buy, right? Throw those babies in the filing cabinet one at a time. Oh, bought another one in the filing cabinet, right? And the longer you can get that wall of worry to stay up, the more time you have to acquire a bigger and bigger position, right? And so that's what we know. That's obviously what I'm doing in this market right now. And that's what I'll continue to do as long as we got this wall of worry, because I see this kind of getting destroyed brick by brick over the coming months. And then what do you have to go off of? The market can always come up with new things. But the problem is when you have so many things thrown at it all at once, it's like throwing mud at a person. Once you've thrown so much, it's like it just starts to slide off them, essentially. And that's what's happening in this situation, kind of moving forward, in my opinion. There's so many things being thrown at this market all at once that the mud's just going to start to slide off this wall, and you're not going to be able to throw anything else at it, okay? And so ultimately, what I'm trying to do in the market is just continuing to hold stocks that I love for the coming years and continue to buy any dips I get. These dips won't last forever. That's something we do know. And if you're trying to play from the perspective of I'll buy right at the bottom, good luck with that. I've seen a million people try that and it usually doesn't work. All we know is when you got massive fear in the market, which we have massive fear in the market, and you see the VIX spiking, we know those are always time periods when you need to be buying out there great companies that you love for the next 3, 5, 7 years. That's what we do know, and that's exactly what I'm doing in this market. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. As always, make sure you get some free stocks from Mumu before WW3 starts, okay? They're still giving out free stocks, so check out that pinned comment down there. Get up to 5 free stocks as a welcome bonus, plus a free share of TTCF with a $100 deposit. Doesn't get better than that. And if you want our business newsletter to be sent to you every single day, absolutely for free, covering all the news going on in the markets, crypto, real estate, all that good stuff, check out the pinned comment down there. Much love and have a great day. Keep in mind,